So if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in and around the Nashville, Tennessee area, then you need to click that button below, subscribe, click the bell for future notifications for when I shoot new videos, and you want to find out more, then that's what you need to do. All my information is in the description box below, so feel free to reach out to me via text, call, Zoom. I'm here for you. But right now, let's talk about pros and cons of Clarksville. So you're thinking of living in or around the Nashville, Tennessee area? Well, in this video, we're gonna talk about the pros and cons of a city that we have been talking about recently, Clarksville, Tennessee, and what you want to know and maybe what you need to know about should I or shouldn't I move to that area. My name is Tiffany Widener and I work with Cry Like Realty here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm also a Homes for Heroes specialist, and I get calls all the time about what it's like living in and around the Nashville area. I want to give you a little history on Clarksville. We haven't done that yet. Did you know that Clarksville was actually established in 1784? Actually, that was like 12 years before Tennessee actually even became a state. So what it was is the Cumberland River and the Red River actually flows through Clarksville, and it was named, the city itself, after General George Rogers Clarksville, an Indian fighter and a Revolutionary War hero. So Clarksville history in war times, the rivers involved there, a port for tobacco. And so there was that trade situation going on in that era. In 1796, Tennessee actually became the 16th state, and it was Tennessee County that at the time they divided it into two separate counties, Montgomery and Robertson County. And the name Montgomery honored John Montgomery, a renowned Indian fighter and a Revolutionary War hero as well. And this is a good find here, is that 1806, Rural Academy was established at what the present site now is Austin Peay State University. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. In 1808, the state's oldest newspaper that is still running today is the Leaf Chronicle was established. And then in 1854, Tennessee's first bank was created, and it's now actually Regions Bank. It's still in existence today. Isn't that so amazing? Tennessee's first bank started in Clarksville. Crazy. And here's some history for you history buffs. In the 1860s, when the Civil War began, Fort Defiance, which is in Clarksville, was established in preparation for the Union advance, only to fall to federal troops in 1862. And fast forward a little bit from the 1900 era to the 1940, this is where I was talking about the Cumberland River. It was a great importance to the community of Clarksville and was well known for dark-fired tobacco as the primary money crop here. So there was a lot of trade and business going on as the time progressed. In 1919, for all you women out there, the Women's Bank of Tennessee opens in Clarksville, and it is the first and only bank in the world established and operated by women at that time. Jump with me to 1940. Wilma Rudolph was born in Clarksville, and most know her as a medalist in the Olympics. She had gold medals. She became one of the world's famous first Black women in athletics. I mean, she broke crazy records, and she is from Clarksville. And when she passed away in 1994, she actually was buried back in Clarksville. In 1942, the U.S. Army, it established Camp Campbell in Montgomery County, and it was named in honor of General William Bowen Campbell. And then in 1950, 8 years later, Camp Campbell becomes the permanent installation and renamed Fort Campbell. So now you have a little history on some of Clarksville's facts that you might not have known about before, but let's jump into pros and cons. Okay, so I've got 6 pros and 6 cons for you, but to start with the pros, why don't we begin with what we would probably consider to be the greatest one, which is the cost of living. I've talked about this several times. It's crazy good in Clarksville. The housing and utilities fall into that category. And you've also got things like there's no state income tax, which is a big perk for a lot of people moving in from different states. There is a much lower property tax than what's average as well. But do keep in mind that we do have a sales tax that's kind of steep. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking of things like that. As far as another pro number 2, you have got a strong military presence with Fort Campbell, of course. And what is awesome is it also houses 101st Airborne, if you weren't aware of that. And it's a very tight-knit community when you talk about the military population. I know my husband was in the military for 4 years when we first got married in San Antonio. And you get close with those that you're serving with. And so there's that factor. Not to mention that, but it's a close-knit community with the military families. So you have that. They have this loyalty to obviously country, but also community. Number 3 is the educational opportunities in Clarksville. They have an amazing school district in Montgomery County. Actually, I think I've said this before, it's the 45th in the whole state. So it's a great public school district that you have. There's also good Christian schools that are in the area as well, not to mention several colleges, namely Austin Peay. We talked about that a minute ago, how it started out as Rural Academy back in the day. But it was named after the governor of Clarksville he was Governor Austin Peay from 1923 till when he passed in 1927, and they renamed the college after him in 1929. So that's a fun fact for you there. Number 4 is going to be the growing economy and the ethnic diversity that is in Clarksville. Of course, it's growing leaps and bounds. We've talked about how it's added 14,000 new residents in 3 years alone. Since 2019, Clarksville has positioned itself as a community that is an ideal place to work, live, and play. We hear that phrase all the time. Well, Clarksville has embodied that in the last several years. It's currently growing at a rate of 2.61 annually, and the population has increased by 11.31%. In the most recent census, which recorded a population of 167,000. Of course, we know that most recent census was in 22, so it's grown over 180,000 people just in the last, 2 years alone. So we've got crazy numbers of growth in the community, and along with that growth in the military base, we have a lot of diversity to go along with that. I want to quote you: based on subdivision plans approved by the Regional Planning Commission, Clarksville will have enough plats, talking about homes here, to meet the anticipated housing needs for the next 5 to 7 years if developers proceed with their proposed projects. Crazy. And talking about diversity here, according to homesnacks.com, behind Laverne and Nashville, Clarksville ranks as the 3rd most diverse city in Tennessee, and it has the 10th largest Hispanic population in the state. So here we go to pro number 5, community and culture. Clarksville has a nostalgic charm that you just can't describe it until you see it. So you have to go see it. Even if you don't live there, go to visit. I'm telling you, you're just gonna be blown away. But it has a nostalgic charm and that small town vibe and that family-friendly atmosphere. Obviously, people are looking for that, and that's why it's growing so crazy. So there's plenty of outdoor activities, boating, hiking, fishing with the rivers, of course. And then you've got the things like the art galleries and the boutiques and the shopping in the historic district. You've got all this community culture. Clarksville's all the time having different things outside, community events, fairs, things that just gets the neighborhood and the community together. Of course, you've got perfect areas for restaurants and eateries, and then breweries and wineries, and just all the things. Here we go. There's something for everyone. Just keep that in mind. There's something for everyone. Number 6, our last pro. There is a lower than average crime rate, which, hey, that's a bonus, right? So according to crimerate.org, Clarksville has been given a B rating. So what is that? It means that the rate of crime is significantly lower than the average U.S. city. So you want to keep that in mind when you're thinking about safety. Clarksville is in the 65th percentile for safety, meaning that 35% of cities are safer and 65% of cities are more dangerous. So you just want to know that Clarksville is a safe place to live. Let's get to the cons, shall we? All right. Here we want to go with cons. I'm going to be quick about this because it's not terrible, right? Everybody's moving there. But con number 1 is public transportation. So Clarksville is, and has always been a smaller city. So now that this growth is happening, I'm sure they're going to have to look into better options or more options for public transportation for those who don't have cars. But for right now, they do have a bus system, although there's only like 8 routes. So the options aren't abundant there. So that's con number 1. Con number 2 is the weather. Tennessee. You got 4 seasons. Everybody loves that. 4 seasons are nice. But let me tell you, when it gets hot here, it gets hot. And there's a humidity here that's, it's just not like anywhere else I've been. There's hot, and then there's sticky hot. We kind of fall in that sticky, humid hot. Sorry. The summers can be kind of uncomfortable. But of course, if you're doing things out on the rivers and the breeze and boating and things like, maybe it's not quite as bad. So there you go for that. Winter time. Tennessee has a way about it. We do get snow, but typically we get ice before we get snow. And we're not one of those states that gets snow crazy in abundance. So we don't have the typical snow plows and things like that the northern states has. So we salt and brine and things like that for inclement weather. But with Tennessee, we typically get that ice before we get the snow, and nobody knows how to drive on that well. Even people from the north, when all they have is snow. When you get ice underneath all that, it can get dangerous. So you got to think about that as well. And we're kind of, in more recent years, have a more random occurrence of tornadoes lately. So just keep those things in mind when you're thinking about the weather. So that's number 2, con number 2. Con number 3 is a limited nightlife. So if you're one of those people who like to be out on the scene, going to the bars, going to the clubs, doing whatever you do in the evenings, that's not in my repertoire anymore. I'm older, so it's just not my thing. But I know there's many people that are into that. You have a lot of that in Nashville, not really in Clarksville. So just keep that in mind. They do have bars and such, but not a heavy nightlife scene like you would have in Nashville. But you can always drive to Nashville, it's not that far away, and then live in Clarksville. Just keep that in mind. So Con number 4 is going to be healthcare facilities. That's kind of limited there. We talked about that. You have the military base hospital, but then you also have the civilian hospital, Nova. But if you want specialized care or you need some specialized services, you're gonna have to come to Nashville for that because it's just not in Clarksville right now. So there's that. Con number 5 is the infrastructure of the city. With its growth, the roadways are jammed, and not as bad as Nashville. We're working on that here too, but it's growing. There's a lot of construction going on, and it's just, there needs to be probably some more management into creating more ways for the roadways to be improved, because there can be some traffic and some issues with the infrastructure there. So just keep that in mind. I think that's everywhere though, really, because we're growing all the time. And number 6, as far as a con, is a smaller job market. So when I say that, there's just certain industries that haven't reached their way into the Clarksville community yet. So that, of course, is going to reduce what is available as far as jobs out there. Of course, you can always come to Nashville to work and commute. You got that too. So I just wanted to give you the overall perspective of pros, cons, a little bit of history, and just give you, an understanding of what you're looking at if you're deciding to move into the Clarksville area. Again, I just want you to ask, if you're enjoying these videos with me, then subscribe below. Click the bell for future notifications when I get more videos out, because I'm doing this every week. And I would love to have you follow me and see you and talk to you, possibly reach out to me. I'm here for you. See you next time.